Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. I would like to introduce you to three of my new articles that just came out within the past 24 hours or so. As you can see here, it shows 17 hours. Okay, and before I do that, I would like to let you know this is for review, informational, and educational purposes. It's not to take the credit for the intellectual property of the article. Full credit to the intellectual property of the article goes to the publisher, which is in this case Carbuzz, and the story by Gerhard Horn, or Gerhard Horn, however you pronounce it. And the headline reads, New hydrogen combustion engine has more power per liter than a Bugatti Chiron. And here it looks like a picture of an engine. Copyright AVL, new hydrogen combustion engine has more power per liter than a Bugatti Chiron. Also, copyright INEOS, or INEOS? New hydrogen combustion engine has more power per liter than a Bugatti Chiron. And now to the article itself. AVL, one of the world's leading mobility technology companies for development, simulation, and testing in the automotive industry, has announced a prototype hydrogen combustion 2.0 liter turbocharged engine. Built by AVL's Motorsport excuse me. Built by AVL's Motorsport department, the powertrain has been under development for several months as the H2 racing engine, and what the team behind it has achieved is staggering. Sorry. The engine was bolted to the test bed of AVL's headquarters in Graz, and the output figures are scarcely believable. It produced 405 horsepower at 6,500 RPMs and 369 pound-foot between 3,000 to 4,000 RPM. That works out to be 203 horsepower, which is 202.5 horsepower per liter. The 100 horsepower per liter club is already small, and going above 200 is something not even the Bugatti Chiron, which is at 185 horsepower per liter, can manage. AVL's closest rival in the 6.3 liter twin turbocharged V8 at the SSC Ultimate Aero TT, which produces 202.8 horsepower per liter. That's one of the fastest cars in the world, and it's just been upstaged. To fully understand the engine, we must first look at the difference between a hydrogen electric car like a Mirai and a hydrogen combustion car like the new Yamaha YXZ1000R. In an electric car, hydrogen is used for a chemical reaction that creates electricity that changes the battery pack, which in turn powers the wheels, but since hydrogen is also combustible, it can be injected into an old-school combustion engine. AVL went one step further by adding intelligent PFI water injection, which injects additional water along with the intake air to avoid premature injection. Oddly, Toyota recently filed a patent for a similar. That's interesting, isn't it? Either they coincidentally had the same idea, or somebody stole something from somebody. Right? Very, very coincidental, isn't it? Just my opinion. Oddly, Toyota, yeah. And in both cases, it claims to improve the longevity of the engine. Another coincidence, isn't it? Toyota is also proving the value of hydrogen combustion in motorsport. So it could be a coincidence or not, but anyway, we have two videos here. A related video, hydrogen revolutionized aircraft propulsion. And we also have, so we have that one video which you'll be able to see upon the publishing of this video. And This is an embedded link in the website, so the link to this website will be put only in the Rumble on my Rumble, uh, only on my Rumble instead of on YouTube, because YouTube does not allow links in the comments section. Rightfully or wrongfully, that's what they do. Of course, in this case, I think it doesn't make any sense because when I originally did it, it was, or even last did it, in fact, which is the case I'm referring to, that they said it was spam. When all it was is I just put uh, the link to where I got the article from. So it's not going to be available on YouTube, but it will be available on Rumble. Okay, here we have that picture I showed you. Quote, the results achieved by our H2 racing engine confirm that we're able to deliver on an extremely competitive package with this technology, said Ellen Lord, director of Motorsport AVL. Quote, the goal of AVL Race Tech is to lead motorsport into a sustainable future with the development of its first racing engine, developed under our name, a high-performance H2 ICE, and ICE is in capital letters, just like H is in capital letters. We have taken another step closer to achieving this vision. While the engine is only for motorsport applications at the moment, it may filter down to production products in the years to come. We all know motorsport is the perfect test bed for components, and AVL is tied to at least one manufacturer for now. In 2021, it was announced that AVL would work with INEOS to create a hydrogen fuel cell Grenadier. Given the output of the impressive engine, INEOS might be interested in offering a hydrogen combustion model alongside its growing product portfolio. Excuse me. And you can see a video, the picture of which I showed you earlier. Excuse me. As a disclaimer, this article appeared on CarBuzz. New hydrogen combustion engine has more power per liter than a Bugatti Chiron. Right, so that ends that first article. Let's go to the second article. And before I do, I would like to let you know, as usual, that this is for review, informational, and educational purposes. It's not to take the credit for the intellectual property of the article. The full credit to the intellectual property of the article goes to the publisher, which is Tech Radar Pro. And the story by Kumar's Fifi Sabet. Headline reads, even a laptop can run RAM externally thanks to a little-known tech called CXL, but it's not for sale to mere mortals who only want 1 terabyte of RAM. Wow, that's a lot. Here we see a picture, copyright Serve the Home, and the caption says, FADU, that's F-A-D-U in capital letters, and then capital CXL 2.0 switch concept. A startup has sampled a new device designed to augment servers with additional memory over CXL 2.0 connection simply by plugging it into a laptop. FADU, which is also known to manufacture SSDs and other storage units, demonstrated its CXL 2.0 switch concept device at Flash Memory Summit 2023. According to Serve the Home, this was a field programmable gate array, or FPGA switch. So it's a field programmable gate array. The firm said it's designed to augment IT infrastructure with monumental amount of memory to support the next-gen workloads such as AI. A similar unit can also display at FMS 2023 the XCon XC50256 CXL 2.0 switch chip, has 32 ports and can be split into 256 lanes, supporting up to 2 terabytes of bandwidth according to Electronic Design. You might ask yourself the question, what's new with it? Not just what is it, but what's new with it? All right. Operating over PCIe CXL 2.0 is an interface between um, the best CPUs, memory units, accelerators, and other components. Its latest standard of the CXL technology. The previous edition, CXL 1.1, focused on augmenting systems with memory rather than relying on RAM to be traditionally fitted with the computer. Instead of fitting RAM units, systems would get a memory boost by directly attaching it to the CPU or GPU or other component of the PCIe slot. It is useful for hyperscalers and big data center operators in particular because it means you can account for when there will be a surge in memory usage during particularly intensive workloads. The CXL 2.0 switch, known as Apollo, supports both CXL 2.0 and PCIe Gen 5 standards in a single chip, and it is designed to reduce latency and power consumption when in use. You also don't need to separate chips in the CXL and PCIe. What's more, processors and accelerators can pull memory in a single space, which negates the limited capacity in data centers caused by tight coupling between CPUs and RAM units. More and more devices are emerging on the market to boost data center performance in the generative AI age, with Fadu's concept following on the XCon unit can be launched at FMS. You can see more from Tech Radar Pro, some other links here. And they also mentioned about DDR5, which we'll talk about at another time, possibly. We'll see what other articles we have. Now let's talk about our third article, as the second one I just finished that one. Before I read the third article, I would like to let you know this is for review, informational, and educational purposes. It's not to take the credit for the intellectual property of the article. The full credit to the intellectual property of the article goes to the publisher, which in this case is Windows Central, and the story by Dan Rice. Headline reads, Intel Core i9-14900KF overclocks past 9 GHz, breaking another frequency world record. Here's some things you need to know, or some main points from this article. A team of overclockers has pushed the new Intel Core i7-14900KF beyond 9 GHz, which is a new world record. The previous record was held by the same group last year with an Intel Core i9-13900K. And also the team has also hit a 9.1 GHz clock speed, but this could not be officially validated. Now I can tell you, as having a tech background, that it's not always viable and it's not always long-term sustainable, or is it practical to overclock a CPU. What you're doing when you're doing that, yes, you have theoretical system improvements, at least in part of the system. But at the same time, you're creating more heat, which can reduce the lifespan of the processor. So how fast does the processor need to run? Now, there's other things. For example, if you're finding your system slow, it could be software issues, or it could be you don't have enough RAM, one of your peripherals is slow, or misconfigured, or any number of things before you look at the processor itself. So if you know you meet the system requirements for whatever you're doing, and you think that it's not sufficient, it's not running fast enough, then what you need to do is look at what are you trying to run for software versus what's the performance of hardware that you have attached. Of course, in addition to the processor itself. I would look at those first. Make sure everything's configured, everything was set up and configured correctly in terms of the drivers, in terms of any software suite that's controlling the drivers and the hardware. I would look at any latency issues with memory, hard drive even especially, and also make sure it isn't some sort of graphics issue. gotta narrow all that down and see if it the processor. Well, if it meets the requirements, it's probably not the processor. So overclocking it is not really going to help the situation. What's going to help is getting the system as a whole to work without any issues. Do you understand? Now, Intel has just launched its new 14th generation CPUs with that comes people trying to push those CPUs to the limits in their attempt to set a new world record. And to attain this, they have using the Intel Core i9-14900KF to pass the 9 GHz barrier. ASUS ROGOC team is formed of overclocking experts known as Elmore, Skater Bencher, Bing, and Shamino. This team has held the record last year with the i9-13900K hitting a frequency of 8.7 gigahertz. With a Core 9 14900KF, they're able to hit 9.1 gigahertz, but unfortunately, this couldn't be officially validated. However, this is likely to be rectified at some stage, which would mean another world record. For now, that record stands at 903.9 megahertz. So that means 9043.9 megahertz. And it took them a whole week to attain it, but I think we'll see some records coming over the next weeks. And so you might ask yourself, what is overclocking? Well, overclocking a CPU is all about trying to push the clock speed past the frequency in which it's recommended by the manufacturer. It's a very bad idea. Why? As there's a certain frequency recommended by the manufacturer. You see what I'm saying? This allows the CPU to execute more operations per second, which brings increased performance, like I was saying. This also causes production of much more heat and means the overclockers need to deploy some serious cooling solutions to allow that CPU to reach these limits. Without that, the cooling there is a potential to damage it, as I was referring to damage, but the reduced lifespan. Overclocking can also be done with GPUs to a lesser extent. On the flip side, you can also undervolt a CPU to make it use less power. This is fine. This is a fine balance to see how much energy you can save without affecting the overall performance too much. The author covered this recently with a piece on undervolting the Steam Deck. Here we have a picture of a box. This is Intel Core Unlocked. And this is the processor here. Copyright provided by Windows Central. Intel Core i7-14700K review. A powerhouse CPU, even if it's not the upgrade you might have hoped for. Okay. Intel Core i7-14777. That's the Intel Core i7-14700K. On its own, it's an excellent CPU, packing tons of power without an increased power consumption over the last gen, but it's still a mild upgrade. 13th generation owners probably won't rush to get one. Okay, so this is a very short article, but keep that in mind. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. You need to look at the overall system, and I'm saying this as a tech guy. I'm saying this as somebody that's their background. When you want to make a computer system run faster, you can't just rely on one component. As in this case, just the processor, but you have to look at all the componentry. Or actually more widely said as more of the peripherals. In addition to your processor, you also have to consider the speed of the bus on the board. You have to consider the speed of the RAM and its parity. You have to consider the speed of the hard drive, and you have to look at the configuration of all the devices, in addition to what software you're running. You have to consider that. So that's just the basic consideration you would look to look at how the system performs. Okay? So anyway, that will do it for a 3-article review. I'd like to pose the question to you. What do you think of these 3 articles? The first one, namely, your hydrogen combustion engine has more power per liter than a Bugatti Chiron, or even a laptop can run RAM externally thanks to a little-known tech called CXL, but it's not for sale to mere mortals who only want 1 terabyte of RAM. Or Intel Core i9-14900KF overclocks past 9 GHz, breaking another frequency world record. What do you think of those articles? Are they useful? Are they informative? Are they relevant to your life? You're welcome to give your opinion in the comments below. Just keep in mind that there's 2 strict ground rules that must be followed. Number 1, no derogatory language, as we're trying to keep this civil and add something positive to this experience. And number 2, no threatening language. And when I say threatening language, I'm referring to threats of physical violence. I'm not talking about factual things like when you mix 2 hydrogen atoms with an oxygen atom, you get water. You know, for example, if you mix coffee and chocolate, you get mocha. Or, if you mix this chemical or do this one, you get this result. No. I'm talking about threats of physical violence. Not only is it illegal, but it's a liability. And it won't be tolerated. So keep in mind as a heads up, if either one of those rules is violated, and I'll ban the person from commenting in the comments below. Now, with that said, I would like to thank you for watching this video, as I know it provided value for you, because being informed about the news that's happening around the world is valuable. What I'd like you to do is please click the thumbs up or the like on the video, as I'll have this both uploaded to YouTube first and then Rumble. So, if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. That way you'll be notified of all my future videos. Well, you'll be notified after you click the bell button, but also please click the subscribe button as well. That way you'll have access to all the content on my channel, as I do have a variety of content on my channel. So I would like to thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. I'd like to wish you a great day wherever you are in the world. Take care, and I'll talk to you